These 3 exercises completely changed my glutes. So back when I first started my lifting journey, it was like 2020. I had just graduated college and I was actually a college athlete, but I played basketball. So it was very cardio focused. All right. And going into lifting, I took that same approach. Everything I was doing was HIIT. I was thinking burn calories, burn calories, burn calories, which is the biggest mistake you can make. So that's what I want to talk about today. A lot of you guys want to grow your glutes, but you're still doing cardio. Like, we got to get away from that. HIIT is not going to get you a dump truck. It's not going to happen. Okay. You have to lift heavy. So that's what we're going to talk about today is I'm going to share the top 3 exercises that helped me build my glutes to what they are now. And I'm going to give you guys some tips that will actually help you get there. We are cutting out the booty band workouts, okay? Once you've watched this video, we're throwing the bands basically out the window, okay? We are not doing booty band workouts anymore. We are lifting heavy, racking the weight. That's what we're doing from here on out. So we're gonna get right into it. So exercise number 1 is hip thrusts. I know you hear hip thrusts all the time, okay, but they are extremely helpful when you're trying to build your glutes, and you should be doing hip thrusts multiple times a week if that is your main goal. The biggest reason why hip thrusts are so useful is because they train your glutes in a shortened position, which means that they're an exercise that makes it a lot easier to load heavy. It doesn't create as much stress when you're loading heavy, especially if you're doing it on like a machine, right? You can just load the weight in the bar when you're doing hip thrusts. It also helps build the top portion of your glutes, which is key, right? If you want to have that side view where it's just like, damn girl, like what is that? If you want your glutes to be popping like that, you need to be working the top portion of your glutes, right? And hip thrusts really work your entire glute, but it's really going to help your glutes, poke out from the side if that's what you're looking for. You really want to make sure that you're using hip thrust, okay? For me, when I first started, I could not do a full barbell hip thrust. I started with a dumbbell and then I just worked my way up. I'll insert clips so you guys can see, but like I remember my beginning days in LA Fitness lifting with like I don't even know, 30 pound dumbbell. Actually, even before that, I was like in my house with a 20 pound dumbbell and some bands and doing glute bridges on the floor. Like that's where I started. So, to where I am now, like hip thrusting like 300 pounds, like you can get there. Okay. You just got to starting with whatever you need to start with. That could be body weight and then slowly building up your weight. Like I said, dumbbells first. And then once you get, I would say like able to do a 60 pound dumbbell have hip thrust, then you're able to definitely handle the bar, right? And then from there you can start adding weight to the barbell. One thing I will say about the barbell is with any exercise, when you're using a barbell, it does require you to stabilize that weight. So it is a little different, right, than doing like a machine or something, which can make it a little more challenging. So for me now and where I'm at with just focusing on loading weight with that exercise, right? I love the machine, okay? Plus, who wants to load a barbell every single time to do hip thrust? Like the unloading and loading of a barbell for hip thrust is probably the most annoying thing to do in the gym. So 100%, I get it if you don't want to. So a hip thrust machine like this would be a great place to really start loading that weight. And it also just takes out like that extra effort, but you do want to be working on this exercise. So hip thrusts target your upper and mid glute max the most, okay? They're not like your RDLs that are targeting your under glute, for example. So it's really important also to understand what parts of your glute exercises actually target, because that's a big thing, like what part of your glutes do you care most about growing? Also, you want to have well-rounded glutes. So don't be just training one part of your butt the entire time, okay? We want that full, like plump gluteus, right? That's what we're looking for. I'm gonna give you guys like a few form cues to focus on. The biggest thing with hip thrust is you wanna keep your heels down. You wanna drive through your heels, but you also wanna make sure that your legs are not too far forward or too far backward. The further out your legs are, the more hamstring focused the exercise is going to be, right? And if you come too far in, it's gonna be more quad focused. So you gotta find that perfect 90-degree angle where you are pushing the movement with your glutes. Okay, I know you probably also heard people talk about you can either do a hip hinge or you can do a scoop method. They both work, okay? There's nothing wrong with either one. I do, though, personally think it's important to learn how to hip hinge because a hip hinge is going to be very beneficial to know or to use for multiple exercises that will help you build your glutes. That is one thing I will say. So make sure that you are for sure working on that hip hinge. All right, so let's get into exercise number 2, which is Romanian deadlifts, RDLs. Yes, yes, yes. Another one that is very common and popular all over social media, but for good reason. It works. And I will have to say the first exercise that I really felt make a big difference in my glutes was this one. I loved me some RDLs. When I actually started learning how to do them and I felt like I got a good hang of them, I could not stop doing RDLs because I felt like it was building my glutes, like it was like magic or something. You know, and I'm not saying it's gonna be like that for you, but for me, this was like that exercise, okay? So 100% practice your RDLs. If you are struggling right now, you don't know how to do them, once again, I kind of mentioned this already, but you have to know how to hip hinge. If you are hurting your lower back, which I hear all the time with RDLs, it's because you don't know how to hip hinge. I'll probably make a separate video on some things you guys can do, some exercises or like things to practice your hip hinge movement to make all these movements easier. With this exercise, you definitely want to make sure that you are pushing your glutes backward as much as you can. You should not be feeling this in your lower back at all. This is a hamstring and glute movement. The reason why it works so well to build your glutes is because it builds length and strength in your glutes and hamstrings. This exercise is focused on your under glute, your lower glute, which is why, you know, hamstrings to the lower part of your butt, right? That's what we're focused on in this exercise. Man, and for me, I think that's probably my favorite part of my glute to work is my under glute. So like I said, once I started doing them and I saw results, I was addicted. I was 100% addicted. And this is also the exercise that I would recommend practicing the most to perfect your hip hinge. Like I said, you can use your hip hinge in hip thrust. You can use them in a bunch of different exercises, which we might get into as well. But it is a very crucial thing to understand when you're trying to grow your glute. RDLs are also a great movement to load. Like for progressive overload, it's very easy to add weight and or increase the volume of what you're doing with RDLs. They're a good exercise for allowing you to lift moderate to heavy with control. As far as form goes, the biggest thing is you need to have a slight bend in your knee. If you are doing like a lock leg, straight up and down deadlift, you are working your hamstrings more than your glutes, okay? So you want to have a slight bend in your knee. Like I said, you're going to be pushing your glutes backwards as much as you possibly can. And you want the bar or the dumbbells to be like shaving your knee when you are going down. Okay, that's like one of the biggest things. You got to also understand the part of the movement where you're actually stretching your glutes is when the weight is below your knee, right? That's when you have the biggest stretch. So don't rush through the movement. Make sure you feel that stretch because that is where you're seeing the growth happen, okay? So very important to understand that. Also, just like with the hip thrust, right, I had to start somewhere. I didn't start doing RDLs with a barbell, okay? I started very slow and small. For a long time, I was very scared of the barbell and I just didn't feel ready for it. So I started with dumbbells and it could be 10-pound dumbbells, whatever. You gotta start somewhere. And from there, I slowly increased the weight, okay? I focused on lifting heavier dumbbells, right? Week to week, month to month, that sort of thing. From there, I went to straight bars and I started doing RDLs with those. And once I got to, I want to say like 80 pounds or something on the straight bar, I was okay. You know what? It's time to start testing out the barbell, right? And then I just practiced my form with the bar alone. And then from there, I started adding weight, right? It took me a long time to even get to one plate. But once I got there, like I said, the amount of growth I saw from doing RDLs was amazing, okay? Especially if you're new to lifting, I promise you, you're gonna be in love. So you do not put it off. Don't be scared, just start practicing the movement. And I promise you, you will thank me later. It will pay off. Also, there's other variations of this exercise that you can do. If you're someone who's been doing this for a long time, maybe you're just bored, right? Like I get bored sometimes of doing the same stuff over and over. You can do barbell RDLs, you can do dumbbell RDLs. Like I said, you can also do B stance RDLs with dumbbells, which is one of my new favorite exercises. You could use even kettlebells. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do, right? So it's important to know different variations so that you're not getting bored. You can switch it up and still be making progress to get to your goal. All right, and last but not least, this is one of my current favorites, okay? And that is the Smith machine reverse lunges with a deficit. The deficit part is very important, so make sure you get that in there, okay? I'm gonna put some clips so that you guys can see what I'm talking about with the exercise. Maybe you've never heard of it, maybe you've seen it a lot. It's pretty trendy, I would say, right now, but the deficit is very important, okay? Probably most of you guys know how to do reverse lunges, right? I think it's one of the exercises that we probably learned how to do pretty early on. The reason why I like the Smith machine is because you can add load to it very easily, right? Just like with the hip thrust machine. It's not hard to lift heavier, especially because you're taking a lot of the stability out of it. And honestly, with the added deficit, stability is probably going to be even a little harder, right? It's going to take more balance with the deficit because of that plate that you're trying to stand on, right? So the thing I love though about this exercise, and the reason why it works so well with glute growth, is it's putting an extra stretch, right, on your glutes. It's lengthening out that lunge range of motion, which allows you to stretch your glutes and build your glute more effectively, right? So that's why the deficit is needed when it comes to that. Don't get me wrong, you can still get great results doing just reverse lunges. You can start there if you need to and then add the deficit later. But I'm telling you now, the deficit will make a huge difference. And you can continue to increase the deficit. So maybe you start with a small plate and you kind of slowly bump it up just little by little, right? So lunges, the reason why I added this one in here too is because it's really important to have a unilateral movement in your routine, at least a few of them. This one in particular I really like, but unilateral means that you are working one ligament at a time, right? With reverse lunges, it's basically like a single leg movement, one at a time. This allows you to place the same amount of load on each leg, which will allow for more balance and symmetry with your gains. You don't want to have one butt cheek looking better than the other. Let's just put it that way, right? We want everything to be well balanced. We don't want to have one glute that's stronger than the other either. We want to have our legs both looking toned and everything. So let me just give you this example. Let's say you're doing hip thrust, right? And you are just always doing like compound movements, hip thrust, we're using both legs. You could be using your right side to actually push 60 to 70% of that weight, and your left leg is kind of there supporting it, but you are just muscling it with your right side because that's your strong side. So it's really important that you are including unilateral movements to even out the strength distribution and just be strong on both sides of your body. This goes for upper body too. We're not going to get into that, but it's really important that you are doing these type of movements. So just like RDL, Smith machine reverse lunges work your lower glute, right? We are working mainly your lower and your middle glute max, okay? And then we're also obviously working parts of your legs. This can be, somewhat of a quad focused movement if you do it that way, but of course we don't want to. We want to make it very glute focused, right? So it is important that you guys find the right stance when you're doing Smith machine reverse lunges. As you can see, the way that I am faced helps me make this glute focused. You do not want to be in a super narrow stance where you're working more of your quad than your glutes. So very important to understand that. You can also do different variations of this exercise. You can do dumbbell reverse lunges if you want to. Like I said, I think the Smith machine is the best way to add load and also take away some of that extra stability components of it, and it makes it easier just to lift heavy, right? But you can always do a dumbbell variation. All right, so those are my top 3 exercises, and these are personal favorites, okay? Obviously, I'm a fitness coach. I completely understand that there are a lot of other great and amazing glute exercises to help you, okay? I didn't even mention one of the big ones, which is squatting. I love the squat. Love it, love it, love it. Right now, though, these are probably my top 3 favorites. They've also just done wonders for me on my fitness journey, especially with growing my glutes. So, I'm going to tell you, though, please also make sure you're squatting. I'm just throw that in there. Make sure you are squatting, okay? I think we hear about the squat all the time, so I just didn't really want to mention it in this one, but you should be squatting, okay? I'll just say that. But I do want to get into some just bonus tips really quick to help you grow your glutes, things that you need to be doing on top of including these exercises and having a good routine. So we just gonna fire through them, okay, real quick. But most important, you need to be training your glutes at least 2 to 3 times a week, okay? You cannot expect your glutes to grow if you are not training them frequently. Once a week is not enough, okay? You gotta make sure you're pushing them on a regular basis. So 2 to 3 times a week, and I'd recommend 3. And secondly, focus on perfecting the hip hinge, which I kind of touched on, right? But hip hinging is crucial because a lot of glute focused movements are using a hip hinge. So it's really important that you learn to perfect it. It's gonna make your journey a lot easier. And 3, track your lifts. Track. Okay, I wish I would have done this more when I first started, but if you have any way to track how much you're lifting and, you know, with each exercise, please do it. Put it in your phone, whatever, and push yourself to lift heavier week to week or month to month. For big exercises, you can really push that weight. I'm telling you, you can add even 5 pounds, okay? Try to add 5 pounds every 1 to 2 weeks onto the hip thrust machine or whatever, and just see yourself get stronger. But you're not gonna get stronger if you're not pushing yourself to get stronger. I'm gonna tell you that now. So if you've been lifting the same weight for months and months, it's your fault. I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. It's your fault. You gotta push yourself out of your comfort zone. You are a lot stronger than you think you are. I'll tell you that. As an example, this is me actually starting with the hip thrust machine this year, which actually, for some reason, I didn't really start messing with the hip thrust machine until this year. I used to do a lot of barbell stuff, but this is where I was at in like January, and this is where I'm at now. So huge difference. And you can do the exact same thing and probably better than me. So I encourage you guys, like, just get out of your comfort zone and push yourself. And next, eat your protein and eat your food in general, okay? You gotta eat if you wanna grow your glutes. Your glutes are a muscle, a huge muscle. You got to fuel your body if you wanna see it grow. And you're not gonna grow your glutes eating 1,200 calories, okay? It's not gonna happen. You guys need to eat enough food to fuel muscle growth. You should probably be in a calorie surplus, and you need to be eating a lot of protein. You should be eating your body weight in protein pretty much, okay? Especially if you're trying to grow your glutes. So I'm telling you now, you know, don't also be one of those people that's in the gym putting in all that effort, but you're not eating to help you get there, because you're going to be real frustrated. You got to do both. It takes both. And then lastly, I'm just going to say, be patient. You got to remember, like, this is going to take time. Okay. I did not get here overnight. Most people that have transformations did not get there, you know, in a few months time, especially with your glutes, because muscle growth, it does take time. But one thing I will say, if you're new to lifting, that's good news for you, because you're probably going to build muscle a lot quicker than someone who's been lifting like me for a long time. Your body does adapt over time. So if you're a newbie and you start lifting and really committing to it, your body is gonna adapt quicker, because it's a whole new thing that your body's not used to, and your body's gonna try to catch up as quickly as it can. So if you're new, take advantage of it. That's all I'm gonna say. Commit to it and actually commit, and you're gonna be amazed at what your body can do in the next 6 months. Okay, I promise you. But that was it for this video. I hope that you guys found this helpful. Please let me know in the comments what your favorite exercise was or favorite tip was. I'm gonna be doing more videos related to this to help you guys. But thank you so much for watching. Please make sure that you subscribe. I post videos every week to help you on your fitness journey. So log in with me, okay? 2026 is right around the corner. Also, if you are looking for one-on-one coaching, I am an online fitness coach, and I will go ahead and put the information in the description. But until then, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.